I want to clarify something as well. We were talking about, smelling odors and like when somebody died. There is an awful lot of misunderstanding regarding the gifts of the Spirit, and some people seem to think that it's their job to go around and say, listen, there's going to be a death in the family, and, like there's some judge or something. Please remember this, that at no given time, any gift that is given is going to bring any state of fear or that this should be used for this purpose. I never even declared to those people that there was going to be a death in the family. The Lord just gave me that revelation by way of smell of funeral flowers so that I could bring to them those scriptures and give them the comfort that they needed at that time. And then the person died, and then they understood what it was about at that point, okay? Then I told them that I had received the revelation. But I know that in some countries, and in fact, when I had even been to Africa, there was an awful lot of people going around prophesying that so-and-so was going to die, kind of like it's some big hoax, and as though they're going to go around saying this as though it's their job to so do. Well, this is not of God, and I don't condone it, and I believe that what we need to do is recognize that anything that's given of God is born of peace and love, and if indeed God does reveal ahead of time that someone is going to die, it's done in a matter of peace and love so that that person is comforted by it, they're prepared for it, and it's not going to leave them in a state of, oh God, somebody's going to be a death in the family, right? Are you following me? Otherwise, it's not of God. There is no fear with God, so we must remember that. And then I already told you the story about these people that I ministered to where the Lord did reveal that someone was going to die the next day. But this is very rare, not too often this is done. I must admit that I wish I knew at all times, what to think. But I have seen God working in such mysterious ways. I know one woman that looked like she was on her deathbed, and my natural mind said that woman's going to die. I didn't even feel like it was even worthwhile praying for her. I mean, she's going to die. I mean, what's the use? My God, I tell you, I have seen so many miracles, I never know what's going to happen. And God raised that woman up. She was indeed a miracle of healing. And I thought, man, I'd wiped her off my slate, But here, you minister as unto the Lord. You believe that healing is of God. And you go ahead and minister the things of faith. And God didn't say she was going to die. I just, assumed it. We assume too much sometimes. And yet I have seen other people that I have ministered to and tried to hopefully believe that God was going to heal them and ministered as unto the Lord, and they looked not too bad off, and in a matter of no time flat they were gone. So when the Lord calls people home, all the praying in the world isn't going to do a bit of good, because we believe that there is also a time to be born and a time to die, as the scriptures do say. I believe also I've discussed with you this aspect of receiving odors as well, and I've already discussed the one as far as the foul spirit. But I also have told you the story about picking up the telephone and smelling gas, okay? And that was in one of the other seminars before we started on the teaching of how to receive a word of knowledge. And so you can receive odors different times for different reasons. And again, it's all for the purpose of for the glory of God. In the case of smelling the gas, like over the telephone and from somebody else's place, it was for the purpose of sparing their lives. And these people went on to live a good Christian life from that point on, doing really wonderful things in the things of God. Now, also, I have mentioned to you that one of the other ways that we can receive knowledge is to sense the presence of someone there that's not actually there. If I can give you an example of this, let me try to describe it simply by saying, have you ever heard the phone ring in your house and you felt it was somebody on the other end of the line? You picked up the phone, you said hello, and it was the person that you thought it was? It was almost as if you felt their presence. Let me say that that's about the way I could best describe it to you. When you sense the presence of someone and God is going to bring that person into your life for some special reason, generally for something spiritual. Again, we are not in the business of fortune telling and knowing things for the sake of knowing it. But oftentimes I have had a revelation of someone being present. I mean, it's just like they're there, though you see nobody. And you're thinking about that person very strongly, and all of a sudden, You have contact with that person. Either they come, they're on the phone, or there's some spiritual purpose for you having some relationship there. And this often happens. Now, I want to also go into this aspect of, well, we haven't discussed the hearing ear as much, have we? There is ways as well that you hear by the hearing ear. For an example, people have said they've heard the audible voice of God. I've heard some people's thoughts out loud. I mean, you don't actually hear them out loud, but if it come over a public address system, you'd say, yeah, I heard it, right? And so there are times when you literally hear things. I've told you the story about hearing someone's feet running after me. Remember that? You literally, I would have sworn that I heard feet running after me, and in which case it was revealed for a purpose that was to bring this person back to the walking in the ways of God. So you can hear things with a spiritual ear. So any way of the senses that you can use, God can use these by way of revealing to us the needs of other people. Now, I want to say something here. While I know that our senses are reacting to revelation, it is that new creature within us that is really receiving the revelation. That new creature which is born of Christ within us, all right? The old flesh profits nothing. But as we open our lives to the Lord, He then reveals to us so that we can understand with our natural thinking. Now, there is another area of receiving revelation, and that's by inspired utterance. Now, this is the one that I use the most, inspired utterance. And how do I mean this? This is the fastest method, and the reason that I use this the most is because when I'm in large meetings, I do not have the time to wait to receive body impressions, to wait to receive all these words and thoughts, and to wait and to receive all these things. When you first begin, it's good because you need that time to just wait before the Lord and receive. But after you've been going for a little while, you can then step out in faith even a little bit more. And I feel that inspired utterance is one of those ways. I do not believe for 1 minute that every word that comes out of my mouth is inspired of God. So let's clear that out right now. There are times that I say things that I don't think are inspired at all. And some people say, Mary, you shouldn't have said that. Well, thank God I'm human. People just couldn't stand to be around me if I wasn't, right? Right. She agreed with me 100%. Now, but I find that when I am in meetings and we are moving in the realm of the Spirit, inspired utterance seems to flow. As I said, and I repeat it, when I'm around in my kitchen and doing my things and, something doesn't go well, or I'm talking to someone and I'm talking normally and naturally, I don't always speak inspired utterance. There's some people, and I want to clarify this, I know that there are some people that think that they are God's gracious gift to mankind, and everything that they say is something that's born of God. They feel as though what they say is just God Himself. Well, I'm not so inclined to think so. I believe that there are times when we are speaking in the way of the flesh and doing the things of the world which are part and parcel of us being very human, and there are times when we do speak inspired words. And I've already gone into the subject of inspired utterance in the way of giving prophecy and so, but that's not what I'm talking about now. Many times when I am revealing things to people and I have a lot of people under my hands, I will just believe, and as I speak forth those things, then I'm listening to what I'm speaking, okay? And as it comes forth, it is a revelation. This also works hand in hand with this G, the one that with H, which is the inner witness of the Spirit. God also gives you revelation. Again, let me repeat it. It's kind of like you becoming a chameleon. You literally become that person. So many times as I've ministered to people, I have felt the way that they felt inside, either lonely or depressed or downhearted or happy or glad, or any other number of things, or the fact that they are hungry for the things of God, where I just feel a hunger inside of me to know the things of God, and I declare that, okay? It's like being a chameleon. You literally take on that other person, and it's borne out by that inner witness of the Spirit. And this is one with the inspired utterance. In fact, these two things are the ways that really I minister in most cases, and to receive, from that fashion, okay? So I am suggesting that you're going to have to try all of these ways in order to receive and to know where you're at, because it's very, very important that you understand all of them. There was a man who was asking to receive help, to receive words of knowledge. And I said to him, all right, you come with me now and help to minister with me. So he laid hands on this person with me. And this is his first time he'd ever done this, see. So I said to him, now, what are you receiving? Declare what you're receiving. And he said, well, he said, I'm just not really getting anything. He said, I just feel like I have come up against a brick wall, you know. And I said, all right, declare it. He said, what do you mean declare it? And I said, because you are receiving a revelation as to how the person is feeling under your hands right now. He says, no, that's the way I feel. I said, no, you are receiving a word of knowledge as to how that person is feeling. And then I said to the person, I said, isn't that right? And she said, yes, that's right. He was receiving a word of knowledge and didn't even know he'd had it. So simple. In fact, it is so simple we fall over it. This is the way the person was feeling under his hands. The person was feeling, I'm up against a brick wall. I don't know where to go. And all of a sudden, when he laid hands on her, that's how he suddenly felt. And he thought it was him, when in essence, he was receiving the word of knowledge regarding the person that was under his hands. It's starting to become clear to you now? A little bit more, huh? And it's so, you know, it's so plain that we've missed it all along. Again, I must repeat to you that the first thing that is shown to you, don't try to figure it out. Don't try to let the natural mind try to figure it out. Sometimes the Lord is going to reveal things to you that maybe are, if I might say, a little bit way out. They're not going to feel like they're all that plain to you. But again, you're going to have to step out in faith and probably declare it or ask, is this so? Again, I'm going to repeat it because you're going to need it. Ask, is there something wrong here? And if they say no, then don't try and force the issue. I'll never forget the time I ministered to this young woman, and declared some things. Her mother was concerned about her. First of all, she wanted her to have a new spiritual touch from the Lord, but she also needed physical ministry. And I said to her, listen, have you been getting some pains here in your abdomen area? And she says, no, I haven't at all. And I said, oh, I see kind of a greenish substance that says it almost looks to me like there's a little bit of infection here. And she says, no, I'm feeling fine. I haven't had any problem like that at all. So I said, well, okay. I assumed that I had goofed up, which once in a while I do. Back in 1949, I remember making a mistake. No. And I ministered to several other things. And the mother came to me after the meeting was over, and she says, Mary, she says, my daughter said that she could relate to all of the other things that you mentioned, but she said she couldn't relate to the fact that she had pains and, you know, that there was some kind of infection in her body. She says, because I have been under the sessions and heard the teaching before, she said, I told her, well, don't worry about it then. Put it in file 13 if you can't relate to it. Don't worry about it. Do you know that 2 days later, this girl had very severe pains in her abdomen area, okay? She passed from her body some greenish substance, and she was a miracle of healing. What had happened was the Lord had given me really a revelation of something that was going to happen. And I didn't know that at the time. And what literally happened was that she then told her mother that 2 years prior to that, she'd had the same type of infection. And she'd had to go to the doctor and be in the hospital for quite some time to get it healed. It was a difficult one to heal. And here the Lord had healed her. And she didn't even know she had the infection until she was actually healed of this problem. So what we want to understand is that sometimes maybe a person cannot relate to a revelation that's given to them right at that moment, okay? And if indeed it is given, then they can relate to it later on. Let's look at this thing called vibrations. Is it right to call these things vibrations. People say, are you getting any vibes? I hate that word. I just hate it, because to me it belongs to the black arts, to the witchcraft, okay? If you want to use a spiritual term, then use a spiritual term and say, are you receiving a revelation? Will you do that? What revelation do you receive or something? But use the biblical terminology on this. Another thing that I want to make mention of is this. Please, when you lay on hands on people, just lay on hands. Don't get all involved in doing a lot of other things. I had a woman ministering with me one time, and I had my eyes closed, and she had hands laid on. We both had hands laid on this woman, and this was the first time she'd ever done this. And I could feel this woman's body kind of moving underneath my hands, and I opened my eyes because when I see something like this, I want to know what's going on. And here is this other woman that was ministering with me, and she's massaging this person, see? And I said, I thought, my goodness, why is she doing this? I didn't say anything right at the moment. I took her into the room after, and I said, why were you massaging her? Well, she said I was doing it to get her to relax, But she says, I'm a nurse, and I was just doing it to get her relaxed. I said, listen, if you want this woman to relax, great, minister to her. But let's not use massaging and the physical things to go with the ministry. People will attribute then their healing to the fact that they were massaged, not by faith. Not that there's nothing wrong with a massage, but, if you're going to minister by faith, lay on hands, that's all. This is where these things in the Philippines come into existence, where these people are supposed to be doing operations, you see. And there's nowhere in my Bible that says that we're going to be doing these things. Lay on hands, yes, but not in the way that this has been done. So this is where this confusion and certainly the deception of the enemy does come in. Now I want to ask another question here too. Is it scriptural? Now listen, please listen carefully to the question I'm going to ask you. Is it scriptural to minister to animals the gifts of the Spirit? Think about it for a moment. Is it scriptural to minister the gifts of the Spirit to animals?
Yes, because of the donkey that talked to the human voice.
The donkey that talked to the human voice. Were the gifts of the Spirit actually ministered to this animal, or was it something in a phenomenal thing from the other way? Were the gifts actually ministered to this animal? No, they weren't. Do you think that it is right to minister the gifts of the Spirit? How many raise your hands? Let me see. How many do not think so? Now, there's a difference between praying for and ministering to. Ministering to is imparting, and I referred specifically to the gifts of the Spirit, okay? Here is the situation. I know that there have been businessmen praying for their herds of cattle to get well, and indeed they have gotten well, and there's nothing wrong with this. There have been little children who have prayed for their little doggies and their little kittens to get better, and they've prayed for their horses to get better, and indeed God has performed the miracle, right? The prayer of faith will do anything if you pray in faith. But I said, do you minister the gifts of the Spirit? And so animals do not have, their faith is not built up. There's no point to going around revealing what's wrong with this animal, right? The animal has no faith. If you want to pray for the thing to get better, fine. The prayer of faith will heal. But, because they're God's creatures. But the thing is this, we do not go around ministering the gifts of the Spirit. There's one man that said, listen, I exercise the gifts of the Spirit, and my cat is going to have 7 kittens. And I thought, big deal. Ridiculous. This is not the purpose that these gifts are to be used, and we must not bring reproach on the name of Jesus Christ. Now, there is also the question on this. What is extrasensory perception? Is this the same thing? I want to try and clarify it in that I believe that in some cases people have used that terminology for lack of understanding and knowing that they were exercising the gifts of the Spirit, probably. I'm not saying that this is correct, and there are some people that do use extrasensory perception that belong to the black arts, to the occult, okay? And I'm going to clarify much more of this when we go into this other area of teaching. But I feel that maybe in some cases people have used this terminology for lack of understanding in the actual gift of the word of knowledge. So let's please be careful to use the terminology that then is there for scripturally. Okay?